the blood. The body and the blood. The body and the blood. Catherine. The body and the blood. The body and the blood.
We're going to devote our energies to sports and gardening, all the cultural pursuits as far as they're concerned. In fact, we're going to put the goons to sleep. Meanwhile, we dig.
Here we go again.
Greetings and welcome to the Anadrome. This is my new channel for film commentary, music reviews, thoughts about the arts, and this is going to be the place where I do more very specific kinds of detailed work. If you want my more extended treatments on culture and arts, go over to the Anadromist. But this will be a place more for very specific film, media, music, arts-related thoughts. So, this is Byrne coming to you from Tbilisi, Georgia. If you're new here, look that up on a map. Georgia, not near Macon, not near Savannah, not near Atlanta, but the old Georgia. Okay, so what we're going to discuss today is a film, Exorcist 6. Actually, they call it The Exorcist Believer. And we'll get to that in just a moment. Just a quick reminder, like, share, subscribe, you know the drill. The channel is new. It needs help. So you must subscribe now. S'il vous plaît.
The one hope. The only hope. The Exorcist.
The original and unrepeatable version of 1973's The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin from the book by Peter Blatty, is a film of its times, the 70s. It is filled with the kind of existentialist dread that haunts most of the great films from that troubling era. Films like Taxi Driver, The Conversation, Dog Day Afternoon, Mean Streets, The French Connection, The Omen, 3 Days of the Condor, Carrie, Network, Apocalypse Now, The Shining. Yes, The Shining is a 70s film. Cruising, and of course, The Godfathers 1 and 2. Likewise, The Exorcist Believer is absolutely a film of its time, with a dogmatic pluralism. It is syncretic, it is uncertain. Even the word believer seems ironic when applied to the film, in which every character is reinventing the wheel of faith, because no one can positively state exactly who or even what it is that they believe, out of fear of some faith system being left out. That isn't to say it's a terrible film. It's not. But it is certainly a product of Hollywood circa now in 2023. The original Exorcist, in deep 70s style, questioned the existence of God, yet took the question of faith seriously. In the end, it is a film about faith in the darkest sense, of fighting through the worst questioning of the soul, whereas The Exorcist Believer, in true postmodern neo-Hellenistic confusion, seems to want to invite everyone to the table to help get rid of the devil. Instead of calling on God, Ellen Burstyn's fighting the demon in the name of all holy beings. And this strikes one exactly in the mode of confusion of that Joe Biden, you know, the thing glitch, with reference to the unspeakable God.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. You know how we talk about it.
And as the fearful forgetfulness of someone who once knew the idea of God very well, who knew there was a God, and then suddenly worries that actually saying it might invoke some new forbidden specter from the past. But of course, the problem is that this is a film about demon possession, and demons, by their very nature, are basically hostile and demand the existence of God, at the very least, as a foil to spit in the face of. The beginning of the film is set in Haiti at the time of the catastrophic 2010 earthquake. Over 200,000 people died in that earthquake. And it's a very evocative opening. It's well set up. There is one curious fact that sets the film's spiritual confusions, though, into motion. A voodoo practitioner, voodoo being a syncretistic West African Vodun, they'd call it there, and Catholic hybrid religion, pronounces a blessing over the pregnant belly of the woman who will soon become the absent spiritual mother of the movie, whom, in seeking to contact, will indeed invoke the arrival of the demonic realm. Now, the film is far too inclusive to ask the following question. Was that indeed a blessing? Was it not attaching a spirit to the child to come? And what sort of spirit? The film never asks. It simply assumes it must be a good spirit because, we are the world. Now, it would be interesting to see what sort of reaction this film gets in Africa. And as a reminder, these sub-Saharan Africans take these things very seriously. To them, spirits, witch doctors, fetish objects are not words imposed upon them by Western colonizers. Christianity is seen as a force to liberate them specifically from the fear and spiritual slavery that African religions create. This is not something I am saying to make some sort of political point. The statistics speak for themselves.
They started with burning of the churches, killing the pastors, and killing the members, closing them down. On 29 September 2014 was the day that they attacked my village. Around 10, I have a call that they have killed my dad. They asked him to deny Christ, in which he refused. They have cut his right hands. Then he refused. They have cut to the elbow again, in which he refused before they shot him thrice at the head, forehead, the neck, and chest.
At the beginning of the 20th century, the entire continent of Africa, including the North, had 9 million Christians in it. I'm sure a lot of them were in Ethiopia, maybe Africa, South Africa, and Egypt. By the year 2000, there were more than 320 million, and the most recent statistics reveal that there are more than 685 million Christians throughout all of Africa in all denominations now, most of them converting from African tribal religions. This is not to say that there also aren't syncretistic religions among the Christian population. There are. But I am fairly sure that the standard Catholic or Protestant Christians of Nigeria or Uganda watching this film would not only look askance upon the portrayal of the Haitian version of African religion in this film, but would indeed see the African rituals as the actual source of the demonic possession. Again, this is not me imposing my faith upon the film. I am certain such a film would be proscribed to especially young Christians in Africa precisely because they take these things seriously. The Exorcist Believer is a film which makes very clear that we postmodern Western folk we don't take these things seriously. We just think they're like, like I say, everyone's together, everyone's spiritual opinion is great. Now, anyone with a modicum of Christian belief or Jewish or even Muslim belief knows one thing in their bones: there is only one God. Everything else that claims divinity isn't. And while there is room for angels and by extension demons, there is no place for other gods. And in many monotheistic interpretations, those other gods are actually demons. This was certainly how Pazuzu, according to Wikipedia, an actual quote-unquote personification of the Western wind, in ancient Persian religion, was shown in the original Exorcist. Whereas the Exorcist Believer, the Loa, the spirits of Haitian Vodou, are mentioned as though they are somehow equated with the angelic realm. And again, by the logic of the film, these spirits enter exactly through these channels, which then makes it extremely strange in the context of the latter part of the film when a voodoo priestess is brought in to help with the exorcism. But we'll deal with that in a moment. Back to the actual film. The build-up to the dual possessions is well done, especially the disappearance of the two teen girls and the subsequent signs of possession. And in fact, many of the images pertaining to the exorcism itself, the strange vapors arising from the possessed girls, the floating Angela Fielding, played by Lydia Jewett, the tension of the scene is fairly well done, even if the sound and effects and music, and this often happens, are doing a lot of the heavy lifting. In fact, there's probably way too much sound and music these days in films, especially horror films. And it's just too easy to make that's where the jump cut comes in and that bam, big sound. But the film stumbles onto its knees when Dr. Beehive, notice how I said that, obviously it's the word beehive, but said in some sort of voodoo way, played by Nigerian-American dancer Okwi Okpokwasili, I hope I didn't mispronounce that too badly, is found performing rituals in the house by the completely out-of-his-depth father, Victor Fielding, played pretty well by Leslie Odom Jr. He sanely chases the practitioner out. In other words, he finds her and just says, get the heck out of here. But then starts to listen to the absolutely flaky next-door neighbor who actually trespassed into his house with this cultist to perform magic rituals. Even at this point, the film could have soldiered on to something resembling a worthwhile narrative. But alas, the intersectional urge got the better of some poor ignorant souls behind the scenes. I wonder if there's a version of the screenplay somewhere where the voodoo folk are actually seen to be the gatekeepers to the underworld that was let loose upon our lonely, hapless girls. Because up to this point, everything is pointing the way towards this as a reality. In other words, that the voodoo people are actually responsible for the demons. Which, of course, you can't say because voodoo now equals good in the logic of our intersectional, we are the world kind of philosophy. But, alas, the logic of everything that came before at this point is tossed out the window. Did I mention that there are two girls who get possessed? The first is black and the daughter of the blessed and dead woman we meet at the beginning of the film. The second is white and attends what I am to believe is a fundamentalist Pentecostal church. There is a pastor of whom I was deathly concerned was going to be yet one more crazy Hollywood portrayal of a preacher. And there are a few hints in that direction, but unlike the far superior Last Exorcism, in which a fraud Pentecostal revivalist is confronted by the reality of the devil, this Pentecostal pastor seems to be kneecapped in the presence of having known quite a few Pentecostal ministers in my time, this was probably the greatest fantasy element in the film. Pentecostal preachers are pretty much the last folks in America who are ever going to sign on to the broad, all spiritualities are equal, we are the world equation, which this film is about to hurl as in puke out, into the universe. So let's get this straight. You have an exorcism about to unfold. Demons are seriously manifesting and surrounding the two girls, tied up in chairs nailed to the floor in a kind of seance-like hand-holding circus. You have a voodoo practitioner. Mr. Fielding, who doesn't seem to know anything at all exists. The angry right-wing Christian parents are more angry than the Pentecostal pastor, which again is strange. And the Pentecostal pastor has no voice in the proceedings and is simply fine with the voodoo rituals that were brought in from the flaky next-door neighbor inviting Dr. Beehive, who is suddenly seen as quite spiritual. That is, the next-door neighbors are seen as quite spiritual, certainly not religious. And his partner, is that the right relationship, played by Ann Dowd, who seems to be by turns grumpy, disdainful in all the right places when needed, and now the main force behind the exorcism, having flunked out of nun school when she was young. Yet, when the obedient to the rules Catholic priest refuses to participate, she takes over. The priest hands her a copy of the Roman ritual to help her perform the rites. Does this book exist? I want one for my library. If it does anyone know where I can get one? I have never seen it in a Catholic bookstore. Is there a special, site for rare Catholic books that I can find this in? Because obviously this is not going to be something you find on the open market. Later, he changes his mind and enters the seance circle just in time to, shall we say, rather seriously regret it. And I am having a very hard time finding the believers here. I just don't see any. Everyone seems to be, this should be been called The Exorcist Doubters. I keep wondering if there is a version of the script where we don't have a come together, kumbaya, we are the world moment, where the presence of the voodoo priest is challenged, where the Pentecostal preacher gets up on his hind legs and finally says, what in tarnation is going on here?
3 of these that aren't gone. In the name of Jesus, I curse these tumors. Command them be...
Where Ellen Burstyn's Chris McNeil actually believes in, that thing. Then, again, this film was made by David Gordon Green, who made another mess of the Halloween requel, that is, rebooted sequel, for those of you out of the Hollywood jargon loop, trilogy. And this is supposed to be a trilogy, too. Hence, the final moments when a much older Linda Blair, did I mention I'm spoiling the hell out of this thing, arrives as Regan McNeil to comfort her now blind mother. That's to say the least. I'm surprised she even still has a brain the way she was blinded. The mind reels. Have I spoiled this completely yet? I hope so, because you really don't need to see it. Okay, so maybe apart from the interesting set-off, the payoff was indeed terrible. Did I lie at the beginning? No, I gave it just a bit of cred. It had a bit of cred for those of you who like a few chills. That's about it. The ideas were watered down because if you are asking the gods from a tribal religion to help you remove demons from that exact same tribal religion, demons brought on by them, you are no longer in the territory of the film versions of The Exorcist. As Jesus said in the 12th chapter of Matthew, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he's divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? Because in the end, the one thing you can't say about this film is that the demons were cast out. And at no point did the quote-unquote exorcists ask the name of the possessing spirit, who I am sure would have answered, I am Legion. For a great version of that kind of scene, see Scott Derrickson's The Exorcism of Emily Rose when she confesses to being possessed, who she is confessed by. Much, much more superior exorcism film. Alas.
Tell me your name, wicked one. He who commands you is he who orders you thrown down from the highest heaven into the depths of hell. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, I now command you. Tell me your name. Hear, therefore, and fear, Satan, enemy of the faith. Give me your name, demon.
Names!
Ancient serpents, depart from this servant of God. Tell me your 6 names.
We are the ones who dwell within. Ni hushohen betong queen habitabit in Rome. Noi tesa paroithen in Juda. Ikmiglio anablio. And I am Lucifer, the devil in the flesh.
Okay, there you have it. My rather strange review, theological review of The Exorcist Believer. Thanks for coming along with us today, and there will be more. And I will also be transferring some of my older videos from the Anadromist that will fit this channel more. So look for that in the older videos section. From Georgia, where we say droabit, which means temporarily, we will meet again.
When I go, I want you to give me 5 minutes. I told you boys I'm no escape artist. For the first time, I like the odds.
At the round earth's imagined corners, blow your trumpets, angels, and arise, arise from death, you numberless infinities of souls.